Feeling lost in the maze of CPS? Desperate to get your child back? You're not alone. Countless parents face the heart-wrenching reality of family separation. The legal system can be overwhelming, but there's hope.
Now, here's the key. Faith, that's how you win a 6-month hearing.
Thank you.
If you do all of those things, you're going to blow your social worker's mind, you're going to blow your attorney's mind, and you're going to blow away the judge.
With attorney Vincent W. Davis, a dedicated legal expert with 39 years of experience, committed to helping families like yours. Join his weekly live Q&A on Zoom, where you can ask your burning questions about CPS cases. Get the knowledge and strategies you need to fight for your child's return.
Alrighty, good evening everyone. This is a question and answer session for school, SKOOL, and this is the CPS school.
Are you ready to take control of your family's future? Join our school community for free to access weekly live Q&A sessions, or participate as a one-time guest. Don't let fear hold you back. Take the first step towards reuniting your family. Join us now.
Good morning and hello on December 29th, Sunday, and I want to warmly welcome you to my live podcast. I'm Bob Pace, and here we are to fight CPS. And, hang on to our children, save our families. I care about all of you. And I know that you're going through a good struggle. Good morning, Betty. I guess I kind of fouled up on the time. I had trouble with my computer. It pulled me on an hour ago. So I'm a little bit late, but I'm glad you found me, Betty. It's so nice to see a friendly face in the crowd here. You're part of my family, and I'm so glad that you're here. And I want to help you as much as I can, Betty. Betty is from Montana, and her case is in Nebraska. And she's trying to get her niece, her brother's daughter, save her brother's daughter. Apparently, her brother and his biological mother of the child went to Nebraska. Of course, they didn't have a very good place to live. I think they were living in a treehouse, if Betty was correct telling me on that. Anyway, the mother had some really drug-related problems. Hi, Amanda. And Amanda, you're from St. Louis, Missouri, correct? The other day I got confused thinking you're from California. And welcome, Amanda. So glad you're here. And great. I got everybody's location right. Betty and Amanda are two of my regulars that come in here, part of the family that I miss. There's about 20 or 30 of you all that regularly come and visit me. My throat is bad this morning. But anyway, you'll find me on Facebook, Fight CPS with Bob Pace. And I'm on twice a day, 7 days a week. That's 14 shows. I typically start at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I come on again in the evening at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. On Saturday and Sunday, I come on at 8 o'clock, early in the morning. That's the only difference. There may be other times I come on different times, but I'm here to help you. I, too, have been involved with the CPS, what I call the Child Protection System. It's a branch of social services that's mandated by Congress to protect your children from neglect and abuse. Further, they're supposed to help you out with food, shelter, clothing, transportation, education, medical, and even find you a job. And if your family is broken apart by CPS because of extreme danger to the children, or they're supposed to do what's called family reunification, meaning that the parents would take classes or programs to better themselves, and then there'd be a plan they follow, and they're supposed to go with that plan and eventually get back with your children. But sad to say that over 800 people of you that I've talked to, that's 800 people, that hasn't been the case. Now, I've been talking for over a year, and I've been talking to all 50 states, including Washington, D.C. And I've also talked to over 20 countries now. And it's international, this podcast is. I've talked to people from Bangladesh, India, in the Middle East, been several countries. Africa, there's been 6 countries. Europe, there's been 8 countries. Across the pond to North America, there's been 3 countries. South America, 1 country. And then over in the Pacific, New Zealand and Australia. But we're all one family, including the nice ladies from South Africa, the province on the West Cape. And I think her name is Laika. And she comes on, and she actually called. They actually called and spent their own nickel. Their country code is 27. Now, Betty says she has a question here. So let me see if I can help you, Betty. She says, why would the courts have a hearing about the parents' rights? Well, that's good that they have about your rights, because your rights, they can terminate your rights. That is one thing you got to be careful about. What I feel that CPS should start off with is when you first get involved and you really want to limit your exposure to talking to them, to have an attorney present, somebody that will defend you, because you're going to deal with the agency that is like doing open heart surgery. It's a very difficult agency, and it's harder because they have a incentive of getting money. It's a money-making business. It isn't helping out families. It's supposed to be, but a lot of you told me just the opposite. And I've only had 3 social workers that come on here that have talked about how CPS is supposed to be. Now, when Betty asked that question, there's something that came to my mind. There was a lady from Michigan that says there they have what's called a settlement conference. Now, that sounds great, that if you can talk before you go to trial and settle the issues, have a placement where your child is with family or friends, even if they're in another state, they can do so. And then have a plan worked out where you can get your children back. That is without a court hearing. That'd be great if the CPS organization that you're dealing with is not corrupt and is not in there for the money part. I believe there are CPS organizations somewhere in the United States that are good. Now, Carol, who is a social worker from Maryland, said that where she was at, that they were very good about that. She is a clinical psychiatrist, and she had 6 months of training with CPS there. So that's one individual. I wish more like her would come on the show. She talked for about 40 minutes. This was a couple months ago. So, Betty will tell you, Amanda will tell you how awful it is. But the reason why they have a hearing is that your rights to your kids are very important. It's your educational and your medical rights. that are really primary. When they take your children and place them in foster care, you still have your rights. You still have the right to determine where your child goes to school, and you still have the right to determine who your child sees. And so maybe they want to have the hearing to give you more opportunity. I don't know, that'd be a negative thing. Now, Amanda says they did formulate my rights uh, behind my back. Yeah, that is bad. When CPS takes it upon themselves to do something illegal, then you got to take action. And that's why it's so important. I emphasize an attorney. And I hate to tell you that the attorney you need is going to cost you money. Money is hard to come by. I know it is. When I lost my job in the summer of 2010 through no fault of my own, I had a big mortgage payment I had to worry about. I had to come up with $5,000 to keep my home going. And I had another $5,000 in expenses. So it was about costing me about $10,000 a month in living expenses where I live. I mean, I chose to live close to the beach, a mile from the beach. I chose to live in a beautiful home. But without income, it becomes really a problem. Now, I was able to survive until I had to sell my home to hire an attorney. That's how I hired an attorney, was sell my home. It's a quick sale. When you do a quick sale, you lose your value of your home. You don't make anything. And the money I made, I used it all to pay the attorney. It's very little because I had high mortgages. That's another thing, too. I was very foolish and elevated myself to a lifestyle that in time I had what's called a predatory loan. It's a real estate term where the banks give you an easy loan. It's where the lenders like Countrywide, who's no longer in business, that were absorbed by Bank of America, will doctor the documents. They will raise your income and double your income. They'll make it look like you look good. Well, they did this to a lot of people, and the banks fell. It really crashed. All the banks went downhill. And that's because of the predatory loans. They were giving people loans they don't really need to qualify. And I was surprised that I qualified because my income was good, but I couldn't believe the home that I was purchasing. Well, anyway, luckily I had a credit line. And the credit line was maxed out, though, because having a predatory loan, they don't tell you about things like property taxes. And my property taxes were like $13,000 every 6 months, something like $26,000 a year in property taxes. And that means you got to put away $2,000 out of your paycheck every month. And so, unfortunately, when I lost my job, I had money put away, but that money helped me for a while until my kids were taken in 2015. This happened in 2010, and it was hard because social services somehow was contacted by my wife's family, my in-laws. The mother, the father, her 3 sisters and brothers were calling in once a week, every week for 5 years, saying things that weren't true about me and my wife taking care of our children. And I had to deal with it. I had them over my home. There's nothing they could find. I talked to them. I showed them paperwork. I showed them the kids were getting A's and B's in school. I showed them the activities they did. I showed them the refrigerator, the food preparation area. I showed them their own private bedrooms and private bathrooms. And they had that all in my home. Unfortunately, in my real life, my mom and dad were slowly dying. And my dad died. And so I took my belongings from him and my mother and tried to give them to families and friends. He asked me to do that. Of course, he asked me to do that when I had no money for storage. So I brought all the items to my home. And because I lived in a private neighborhood, I had to keep them inside, out of sight. I first had all the belongings stacked on the driveway with tarps over them. Then I tried to move them inside my yard, but the weather was bad on them, so I moved them in the home. Unfortunately, it created a clutter effect in the living room because I had furniture on furniture, boxes on boxes. So when they came out, what they did is they got tired of me stalling for 5 years. they're very aggressive, and they love to take advantage of people that are down and out, people that maybe are low income, or people that lost a job, or people that are having troubles with their spouse, or there's a lot of things they prey on. They prey on people like that because they know that you can't afford an attorney, because they know how much an attorney costs. And what they want you to do, which a lot of people you have to realize, they want you to take their attorney, their court appointed attorney, their public defender, because they will manipulate you and work for CPS. If your children have a court appointed attorney and both parents have court appointed attorneys, then it makes CPS real easy to keep their children in foster care and adopt them, and real easy because there's that incentive of 1997 that Bill Clinton enacted that will reward the child protection system, the CPS organizations in every county, every state, money. I'm talking $5,000 or $6,000 that they reward you for getting them into foster care, Fred, because foster care goes fast. Reunification takes a year or more. And if you have complicated by criminal charges, that can add more years onto it. And they all have this collusion where they work together, the criminal courts and the dependency courts and the social workers and the police. They are really doing a bad number where I lived. I was really shocked how easy it is. What I know now, if I knew that back then, I would never have lost my children. I had 3 of my 6 children taken. My other 3 had grown up and lived on their own. And they had families, so they weren't a part of what the CPS was trying to do. But my 3 younger ones, they trafficked them into foster care. They don't care if you have family or friends. They started off with a shelter with my kids next to the juvenile prison. And it's an awful place they were put in. I did get them to stay with my wife's sister and husband, but they thought it was for a short term, and they wanted to drag this out because there was criminal charges added on by the detective that was investigating that were bogus. But they said, until you get those criminal charges, we're going to do nothing. They ignored me with my ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. I am a Lakota Sioux, about 25%. And I know my kids have Lakota Sioux in them. And I wanted to get them registered. The reservation where the great 3 great grandmother lived is in Rosebud, South Dakota. And anyway, they ignored me on that. Now, the importance of the Indian Child Welfare Act is that for 100 years, they've been gladly taking Indian children and having them adopted out. And the parents of the Indian children had no rights to their children. So Congress passed a law that said that CPS must give the kids over to the Indian reservation if they are one of the 548 tribes recognized. So anyway, my case got worse and worse, and it lasted for a long time until I hired an attorney. So the importance of getting an attorney is so important because you don't want to talk to them. You don't want to do anything like that. I want to say hi, Jessica. I'm going to, I don't know where you're from, Jessica. Betty said, if one of the parents had a video visit with the child and a family member looked over and said hi, that should be okay, Betty, but I don't think you probably was. If you see one thing, they're really strict. A visitation is the parent and the child. The parent and the child. At first, we were seeing 2 of our children all the time. Both parents were in the beginning. And then the daughter, for whatever reason, was excluded. She was young, and my wife saw her for a little bit, but eventually that phased out. So I don't know if it's a good idea to have a visit with other relatives. Betty further says to the child, um, they said their parent would have to have 6 consecutive visits before families could wait. Now, I don't heard about that. I don't know if that's Nebraska's rules or something. I never heard of 6 consecutive visits. I think, you see, while you're doing the case, the way that CPS in Orange County, California explained it to me is that the visits between you and the parents. Now, later on, they started making the visits more miserable. They started breaking up where the dad would see the children and then the mom would see the children. They couldn't see them together. And then her daughter, her mother would see her, but eventually that stopped. What it is the children are being alienated from the parents and told bad things by the CPS workers because they're trying to separate the children from the parents. When my kids were in a group home, they were taught how to put their hands aside and not hug you. I know all this. This is firsthand information because I was in it. I went through it and lived it. And so having other family members is out of the question. They don't care about grandparents. They don't care about seniors. They don't care about elders. They don't care about cousins or aunts or uncles or anything out there. They kind of want to make it hush hush. Their goal in CPS is to get as much money as they can out of having your children in a foster care. That's their goal, and have them adopted, because once they're adopted, they continue to receive money to their 18. They consider to receive money to their 18. So that is their goal. And I'm not sure if that answers your question, Betty, but I never heard of 6 consecutive visits. Yeah, and they will shut the visit down. Our visits, the more I fought, the more that I went to the director of CPS in Orange County. And that guy was terrible. His office alone, not the office where his workers worked in, looked like the Taj Mahal of India or the Emerald City of the Wizard of Oz. And he was so weighted down with gold around his neck, I felt like offering him crutches so he wouldn't fall over. And everything I said, my wife has said to him, went in one ear and out the other ear. I talked to managers and supervisors. They made all the wrong promises. You see, we as people are raised to trust our government. And I hate to tell you that our government is bad. I had bad experiences with the IRS. I've had bad experiences with a lot of the government agencies. And it's sad because the government is supposed to serve the people and you pay for it. A lot of you don't realize that when you work a job and you put money into Social Security so you can get it later on, the interest on that money goes to pay for the government. And they're out there paying for $15,000 toilet seats. The Navy will requisition a toilet seat and they'll charge $15,000. The government all the time is running out of money. They say that we don't have money. Well, they waste money. They pay a religious cult in Utah to develop alternative fuel. They pay them millions of dollars every year. They've been doing it for 10 years, and they have not developed one drop of fuel for gas consumption, for car consumption. But they give the money away freely. And then every so many months, oh no, we got to raise the ceiling. Our debt is too high. We can't, the government will shut down. And when they say the government shut down, that means that Social Security would stop and the military would no longer get paid. And that is the worst thing for them to do that. And this last time it helped before. And so, the government doesn't keep track of our money. Same thing goes with social services, with the child protection system. Over $1 trillion a year is what the CPS earns. $1 trillion. And they're paid bonuses and incentives. My social worker was terrible. she'd sit there and brag about her new Gucci purse she got every week, or her eyelashes, or her makeup, or accessories, or her clothes, or a BMW car. They gave her so much incentives and bonuses because they have $1 trillion to work with. Can you imagine $1 trillion? That's such a lot of money. I don't know. I don't know if the richest man, Elon Musk, has $1 trillion, but that's a lot of money. Now, Betty further says they have changed caseworkers 6 different times. Well, I'm glad they changed because hopefully you can find a caseworker, though the case, how the supervisor has changed this case. Who do you talk to if the caseworker is not willing to talk to you? Well, then you have to go to a manager or supervisor, which may or may not help, but then you're going to have to go to the child protection director, the CPS director. He is the person in charge of that county's CPS, the child protection system. The director is. Now, if the director is not going anywhere like mine didn't, you have to go to the ombudsperson or the civil rights coordinator in your city, in your state's capital. Now, I did not know that at the time of my cases. I thought the director was the last place you go, but you can ask and make a request to talk to the ombudsperson or the civil rights coordinator. And that's at the state level, and that's at the capital. Like in California, it'd be Sacramento. But each state's different. I don't know in Nebraska it is, but Montana, I don't know. I don't know my capitals. I don't know my states, but that is. And if that doesn't work out and you exhausted your resource there, then you go to the Washington, D.C. area and look for the Health and Welfare Department and the branch that handles the child protection system. And that's who you make appeal. And both of those, either the state or the federal, can be found on the website. And it's very important when you do it. I have rule number 4 that says that you need to research the internet because there is a gold mine of information. But it's very important how you phrase your question. You start off with the city, or if your city's small like Athens, Georgia, you put Athens, Atlanta. Then you put the state. After you put the state, you put the letters CPS. And right away, you'll see lots of things pop up. But if you want to further refine it, you need to put who did I talk to in CPS in Washington, D.C.? What is the handbook and procedures of CPS? How's my case? You can be that specific and you keep doing that. And it's going to take you at least 60 to 70 hours you need to spend. It's a serious business that you need to do. So you need to keep fighting. And that is the hardest thing. I find that out. You never want to give up. Some of you have lost your children. Some of you have had your parental rights terminated. Some of you have had your children adopted. I know it's tough. And a lot of it isn't your fault. We aren't born with a manual about how to fight CPS. Life skills are no longer taught in our schools, and they should be. I believe that life skills should start at the earliest form, which is called Prep PK. Even before Prep PK, there's preschool. You see, you need to tell kids about life skills that are related to their age of development. Like in elementary school, bullying is a common problem in elementary school. In junior high, it could be experimenting with drugs and sex is a common problem. In high school, it's dating and relationships and fighting with your parents. And in college, it's marriage. It's also dealing with CPS and IRS in your checking account, your savings account. Those are life skills, as well as cooking and sewing and things like wearing a pillow for a month to see what it's like to have a baby, be pregnant. And both guys and girls participated. It's very hard when you have this pillow in your stomach and you start to recognize that maybe you should try abstinence or protection when you're having sex. Now, sex, I cannot, it goes earlier and earlier. People in elementary school are doing sex. They're talking about sex. Why are they talking about sex? Because the media talks about sex. The media pushes things. It pushes kids to smoke. It pushes kids to do drugs. The media is awful. And our social networks have to tighten up who can review the material, because there was a meeting in Congress with all the heads of Facebook, of Twitter, Instagram, Threads. I can go on MySpace. Anyway, they all were there. And the Congress is asking, how come you don't have restrictions? You see, it's an open season on Twitter. Anywhere. If you go on the internet, all you have to do is say, yes, I'm 18, and then you can view sexual explicit things. You learn sex when you're in 6th grade. It's a fun thing for girls and boys in the little groups or cliques to learn about all that. That's what they learned about, stuff like that. And sad. It is sad. I want to say hello to Lori. Lori, I never know where you're from, but you always come into my room, and I appreciate it. And she is now Lauren Mullers. She has Lori Hiller and Lori Mullers. But I'm so glad you're in my room. And again, thank you all for emojis. You guys have done really good with emojis this morning. Thank you. I love to have thumbs up and hearts and faces. And thank you, Lori. And thank you, Pale Gracious. I appreciate that. And welcome, Tessa French. Wow, you're one of my regulars. I'm glad to see you, Tessa. Tessa is from Northern California, and she has a hard case. Tessa, had an outbreak of seizures, and her husband was trying to help her with her seizures, and a layperson reported that her husband was beating up on her. And now she's trying to get her children back. She's all my guests on the show. And she talks very articulate. She's a very sweet woman. She says we have trial on the 2nd. I know you've been talking to it. It's only 4 days ago. I was hoping that before you had trial, you could do a settlement conference. But if you have trial, hopefully you'll have all your witnesses subpoenaed and you can fight it. It's very important that you use your attorney. Now, if you've hired an attorney, that's great. I want to talk about attorneys. The attorney you need to fight the CPS is a juvenile family dependency attorney. Now, Mr. Davis, who talked about before my show started about his Zoom conference meeting, is a juvenile family dependency lawyer with over 39 years of experience. And he has won cases of having children back, and he's won against CPS. In fact, he's also sued CPS when the case is closed, and he has won cases where your violation of your civil rights and your constitutional rights were violated. And he's won millions of dollars both in state and federal court. He's a trial attorney, and he, as you say, he's been doing this a long time. He was my attorney. He got 2 of my 3 kids back, and it was very important that they're back. Unfortunately, the one child that didn't get back is my social worker was so corrupt that she committed perjury when she was asked on the stand after swearing an oath. She lied, and she lied so bad. Mr. Davis flushed her out with the lie. We were doing um, an issue where my wife's sister and husband wanted to adopt our daughter, which we didn't want to have happen. And Mr. Davis was asked the social worker what kind of parents they were. He further asked her and she said, they're great parents. They'll be good for your daughter, for their parents, Pace's daughters. And then they ask, has they ever had domestic violence? And the social worker very proudly said, I'll never forget it, oh, never having domestic violence. Well, Mr. Davis had done his homework, and he pulled up reports out of his briefcase and started reading them one by one. And the look on the social worker's face was horror. She was so embarrassed because she had committed something called perjury, which you can win that case and win millions of dollars suing that person if you could hire an attorney. I was out of money, sad to say. I spent all my money getting my kids back. I sold my home. I was broke. Because of my age, because of my involvement in CPS, I couldn't get my career job again. It was so sad. It's still so sad. I am struggling on only $280 a week to take care of my family of 4. I still have 2 children living with me and my wife. And my wife, because her disabilities, can't work. So it's really hard for me. And I really am really struggling there. But anyway, it's important that you get an attorney. I did. And the reason being is that the attorney, the court-appointed attorney, or the public defender will not defend you. They only have a background in criminal law. They're new at being a lawyer. They're paid by social service. They're friends with the judge and the social workers' attorneys. And they have a caseload of 30 or more clients. So they don't have time to talk to you out of court or anything. They only see you when you have your hearing or your court dates. That is an attorney. And I'm sad to say, and you're going to have to make that attorney work if you plan to keep a court-appointed or a public defender, or you're going to have them replaced. And they may not like that, but you may have to replace them 6, 7, whatever times it takes. You may have to file a complaint to the Bar Association. You may have to do it at the state or the federal level. But it's all about fighting and not giving up. Not giving up, Tessa. So let's see what Tessa says. I haven't heard from Vincent yet. Well, you should have. Let me check my phone and see what day I turned your name in there, Tessa. Hold on one second here. Okay. I'm now trying to go through my list. The last lady I had that Vincent will talk to is Adirsha Griffith, and she was from Florida. And then before her, I had Tessa Shante French. And there you are. You were, let me see, what date I submit that? It will submit, I think, on Christmas Eve, the 24th. What you can do, Tessa, is write my show producer, and I'll put her name up right now. Tessa, and ask her when you're going to have your time to talk with Vincent Davis. Her email is grace@vincentwdavis.com. You write Grace, say that Bob Pace submitted your name for a 15-minute discussion with attorney Vincent Davis, a private Zoom meeting. And it was submitted on the 24th of December, Christmas Eve. So on the 24th, I did that, Tessa. So it should be there. Okay? There's the email. It's grace@vincentwdavis.com. Do it today, Tessa. Do it today. Now, let me see where I left off at. Tessa says, did you hurt her? Did you hold her accountable for that? Well, I wanted to sue the social worker, but I couldn't sue the social worker because I didn't have the money to pay the retainer to hire. I thought that some people would go after my case, and I was misled. And I was saddened by that message that I could not do that. It was really sad. Now, Tessa further says, we literally have the exact same situation. Our last social worker perjured herself in court on the stand after being sworn, and we can prove it with the minutes. Well, you can't sue the social worker until your case is closed. And I was, very heartened that I thought I could sue, but I had to wait. And when you wait, that is the hardest time to wait for. And you need an attorney that can do that. Now, you say that your husband has a public pretender from our last case. Should we conflict her out? And she already admitted to being friends with everybody in the courtroom. Well, that is a conflict of interest. Yes, you should do that. There's no question about that. That you need to have any conflict of interest in the courtroom. You don't want to have that if the friends of the judge or anything that. So what you do is you request the public defender or the court-appointed attorney to be substituted out so there's no conflict. So yes, you should do that, Tessa. You should do that. So if that helps you, Tessa. But Tessa, Vincent will talk to you. I know I've talked to people on the show that have talked to him. So Tessa, you are supposed to have that time with Vincent Davis. It being the holidays, and so far I have maybe 20 or 30 people that have either called in or been a guest on my podcast. And so now another thing I like to do is put up how you're supposed to text in here. And a lot of you know how to do so, but there's people in my room that are listening that if they wanted to do something interacting. See, when you're in my room, you can do emojis, and then you can do send me hearts. You can check to follow me, or you can check notifications so when I'm on. But if you want to go a step further, you can text me messages, either a comment or a question about your CPS case. We want to stick to CPS. That's what we're in here for, the Child Protection System. All I ask you is to give your first name, your city, or your county the case was in. Now, if you're like Betty, she's in Montana, her case is in Nebraska. So you will have to say, I live in Montana, but my case is in Nebraska, where my brothers and his wife have lost their child, my niece. So that's how you'd phrase it. Then I ask you for the city or county. Now, if you don't want to say city, the county's fine. Also, I'd like to know the state that you're in. Now, if you're from another country, and I've already told you that I have 20-some countries, please list your country or your province. I do help people from around the world. I want to help everybody. You're my family. I want to take care of you. I want to see it set right. And then also try to be complete with your CPS case so I don't have to play ping pong ball. Um, Thank you, Tessa. I appreciate the thanks and kindness. You've been really good when you talk to me on the show. You and Mrs. G um, have given me some of the best advice. Well, I'm glad. There are a lot of people that are out there that will help you, but there's a lot of bad people that'll take your money and run. And I've heard from so many of you that went out and got the wrong attorney, and you paid $20,000 or $30,000 for nothing. The retainer is supposed to cover their legal fee. They ask for a high amount because it's very emotional, and they want to be able to do a good job. So they ask for that amount to cover their legal expenses. Now, retainers are judged by Mr. Davis does, is that depending on the complexity and how long your case has been going on. If you approach him and case just started out and it's not too complex, he'll have a low retainer. But if your case has been going on for years and it's very complex, he'll have a higher container because it takes a lot of money. There's money to send for depositions, money for subpoena witnesses, money to research documents, to copy documents, to make documents. There's legal time besides his legal fees. And he's one of the best out there. So, yes, he is expensive, but you get what you pay for. You gotta keep in mind, this is open heart surgery you're dealing with. You get what you keep for. If you get a plumber to open up your body cavity and take your heart out and try to repair it, he probably won't succeed. He won't succeed. But a plumber's cheap. So is yourself. A layperson can do open heart surgery, but you're not going to succeed. So that goes true. Attorneys deserve the money if they're good. Now, I want to say if they're good, it's good because they have to go to school. They have to take law school. They have to do the bar exam, and they have to be licensed. And then they're usually mentored with a law firm before they go out on their own. So, they're worth the money. I know it's expensive, and it depends on where you go with them. And I've been trying my podcast without my background. I don't know if this is better or not. But anyway, if that helps you, Tessa, thank you so much, Tessa, for the kind words. Now, again, please, other people, text me, new people, and so forth. I think we had a couple new people here. Hold on a second. Well, we had Lori. She's been here since the start. She's been with me for over a year. And then we've had Betty, and we have Jessica G. I haven't heard anything further from you, Jessica. I would appreciate you tell me where you're from and about your case and how I can help you, Jessica. It's so nice you dropped in. Also, Amanda from St. Louis. I haven't heard much from you either. And if you want to tell me some more, I know you've been on my show a long time. And Tess asked me a lot of questions. It was nice. Now, another way to interact with my podcast is be a guest on my podcast. And if you want to be a guest, you pick one of my 14 shows, morning or evening, Sunday through Monday, and email it to my show producer, Grace, who works really hard behind the scenes, makes my show possible. Now, she can reach at Grace at VincentWDavis.com. Grace at VincentWDavis.com. And she'll gladly help you be on the podcast. She'll give you a link. I'm broadcasting on YouTube using the StreamYard application. If you get bounced off, use that link again. It's good for the show. So that's all you have to do, and she'll explain to you how to adjust your sounds and your video and what to say and not to say on the podcast. And lastly, let me see. I have a comment that came in from Tessa again. Mine just started, but it's still $45,000. Wow. That is a lot of money. But I think also you're in Northern California, and there may be on that money charge, there may be per diem for transportation, food, and accommodations. You see, Mr. Davis works out of Arcadia, south of Los Angeles. And if he has to travel, he has airfare or car transportation on the ground. He also has to eat and have a place to sleep. So in part of that may be the per diem for his per diem. And when he goes out of state, it's a lot more too. Like if he has a case right now in Oklahoma, he can practice other states. So I realize that. Well, if you have an attorney right now that wants to charge you $45,000, when you talk to Mr. Davis, ask about his retainer, because I don't think it'd be in Northern California that much. He's a garbage worker. Now, did the attorney you find was, do you ask those two important questions? I want everybody to get it through their mind. There are two important questions. One, are you a juvenile family dependency lawyer who's fought CPS and gotten children back? If the answer is yes, the second question you ask, have you ever sued after the CPS is closed, CPS, either in state or federal court, and won money against CPS? If the answer is yes, then you got yourself a winner. And you want to do that with 3 different attorneys. So you get a quote of 3. And one may say a retainer of $20,000. Another says a retainer of $40,000. But you got to make sure they're qualified, just because that $45,000 sounds a little high if that's a local attorney in Northern California. That sounds a little high. But then again, if you're just starting out, it should be low. I would think it'd be somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000. But I'm not an attorney, and I have only talked to people and stuff there. So anyway, you need to check that out, because that does seem kind of high there. Now I'm going to move on to the 4th way that you can interact with my podcast, and that is to call in. I have a phone number, and I'll put that up. That phone number is 626-698-0990, and you can call in that and talk to me on the podcast. That is a number you can call right now. My phone is available. Also, I want you all to understand that it's so important that you either be a guest on my show or you call in, because by doing so, you'll get a free 15-minute consultation private Zoom meeting with Mr. Davis. It may happen within a couple weeks of when you request that. But if you call into my show or you be a guest on my show and talk, I will ask you, do you like to speak to Mr. Davis? If you say yes, I'll give you instructions of how to talk to Mr. Davis. I'll give you instructions. Now, for those that have already requested to have Mr. Davis talk to them, if you're having issues, you don't know when, please write my show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. Grace at vincentdavis.com. She will help you with that. So I'm going to leave my phone number up. Wish I'd put it up earlier. By the way, there's another phone number on the screen, 888-888-6582. That's the law office of Mr. Davis. You can call right now to retain him. Just make sure when you talk to the office staff that you say that Bob Pace sent you. Also, when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And that is the office number. Also, if you need an attorney in other matters like immigration law, criminal law, and so forth. it's very important that you call that number, because there you go. So, again, I'm on twice a day, 7 days a week. So, I'm here. I'll always be here for you. Now, Tessa further says, I'm looking for attorneys up here. Should they be from a different county? Well, here are the questions. Ask those two questions. Ask those two questions I told you about. One, are they a juvenile family dependency lawyer? And have they fought CPS? And one, he got children back. The second question is, after your case is closed, have you sued CPS in a civil matter against CPS and won money? If the answer is yes to both those questions, you found the right attorney. You also can you could Google on internet all about them. They will show up. They'll show bad reviews, good reviews. They do that. You need to use the internet. It's very, very, very important. And they can be from anywhere in the country. Just keep in mind, if you get an attorney that is away from your area, away from your county, they're going to have per diem, which is an added expense. That's their ground transportation, air transportation, food, and hotel. That may add another $5,000 to $10,000 more to their case. So it is bad, because it's hard to come up with this big type of money. Tessa says the first one is a yes, the second is a no. Well, you see, if they said no, there's a good chance that they're scared of CPS, which means that they're afraid of CPS. If they've not done a civil lawsuit, it's not the end of the world. But you got to find attorneys. So you may have to call 10 attorneys. You may have to call 25 attorneys, 50 attorneys, 100 attorneys, 500 attorneys, 1,000 attorneys. It's a lot of work, but it'd be worth it in the end. It'd be worth it in the end. It'll be worth it in the end. And I'm just trying to help you narrow the field down, because there aren't that many attorneys that both fight CPS and get your children back and also do civil lawsuits against CPS. I don't think there are that many, to be honest with you. I don't know. But those two questions are so important to your help elimination process. Now, if they never fought CPS, that doesn't mean they're not bad. But you just told me the attorney for $45,000 sounds like he's a garbage man. Well, you need to see references. When you talk to attorneys, you need to ask references, and you need to speak to those references. How was that person? Was he a fighter? You need to check their credentials, because a lot of them will lie. I hate to tell you, attorneys are just as bad as social workers sometimes. Now, I only have about 2 minutes left in my show right now, so I'm getting towards the end. I'm going to take my number down because no one wanted to call this morning, which is all right. I understand it's hard sometimes to talk about your case. But I'm going to be ending my show soon. I was supposed to start at 8 o'clock. My apologies. My computer, for some strange reason, and maybe God has protected me for the first time, is working. Now, I've not had that happen in days. And I don't know if it was after I did my CC cleaner with it, but it somehow seems like it's working. I don't know what I've done or what it is, but I had appointments set up to go to the computer shop today. But I don't know if I'll go because the problem I had isn't showing up. So anyway, I want to thank you all for listening. I want to, be here again tonight at 7 o'clock. I want to thank Tessa from Northern California that has a case coming up on January 2nd. Thank you, Tessa, for all your questions. Lori, I want to thank you. I don't know where you are, but thank you for your emojis, and thank you for being a part of my room all these months this past year. Betty, it's so pleasure to meet you. You're from Montana. Your case is Nebraska, and I hope that you're able to get your niece back and out of the mess of CPS. Jessica G, I never found out where you're from, but I hope you'll come in again, and I hope you will share and work your case. Amanda, I've heard a lot about you and your case, and you too have been on my show, and I want to thank you. And that's Amanda from St. Louis, Missouri. And I think that is it of all the people today that have texted. And then all the rest of you that are just listening, thank you and God bless you. And please do not give up. Please fight for your children. Vincent Davis will speak again about his podcast. This is Bob Pace signing off.
Feeling lost in the maze of CPS? Desperate to get your child back? You're not alone. Countless parents face the heart-wrenching reality of family separation. The legal system can be overwhelming, but there's hope.
Now, here's the key. Faith, that's how you win a 6-month hearing.
Thank you.
If you do all of those things, you're going to blow your social worker's mind, you're going to blow your attorney's mind, and you're going to blow away the judge.
With attorney Vincent W. Davis, a dedicated legal expert with 39 years of experience, committed to helping families like yours. Join his weekly live Q&A on Zoom, where you can ask your burning questions about CPS cases. Get the knowledge and strategies you need to fight for your child's return.
Alrighty, good evening everyone. This is a question and answer session for school, SKOOL, and this is the CPS school.
Are you ready to take control of your family's future? Join our school community for free to access weekly live Q&A sessions, or participate as a one-time guest. Don't let fear hold you back. Take the first step towards reuniting your family. Join us now.